episode of the WiEA Pod. I'm Kirsty Franks. I'm going to be your host today. I am one of the board members for the Women in Estate Agency group. We all know that the WiEA community is filled with incredible people, with incredible stories to tell. And we wanted to bring you these stories and bring these people to life in a series of 30-minute podcasts that we'll bring to you every single week. In order to create real change within the industry, we wholeheartedly believe that we are stronger together and that we will thrive together. So of course, we'll be bringing on a whole host of men onto the podcast as well for them to tell their story and work with us towards the change that we are trying to make together. The creation of the podcast has been somewhat of a labor of love that we've been working on for quite some time, and none of this would have been possible without our partners over at Digital Sparks. If you don't yet know about Digital Sparks, please head over to Instagram and check out what they're doing. They're creating some awesome social content for businesses and agencies within the sector, so go and check them out. But let's get on to today. So I have with me a very, very special guest today. She is straight off the stage of the recent Women in Estate Agency conference, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I won't be surprised if she's going to talk about how much we absolutely pushed her out of her comfort zone on that day. I am delighted to be joined by Vicky Bibiris, MD of Location and all-round culture queen. Hey, Vicky.
That was quite the intro, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I could have said a lot more. Let's talk about the Women in Estate Agency conference to start with. I was stood backstage with you before you went on that stage and you were like, why am I doing this? This is totally out of my comfort zone.
It was massively outside of my comfort zone because, I don't often do public speaking at all. I've spoken on various panels and done various podcasts and stuff like that. And each time I do it, and even today, you do have a sense of nerves, a sense of uncomfortableness. But we all know and we've all heard that the magic happens outside the comfort zone. And I can't help but know that every time I do something like this, I feel better after having done it.
I totally agree. I have the same feelings. And then we think, is this imposter syndrome? Is this, I don't feel like I'm good enough at what I do? But actually, for me, feeling those nerves really fuels me to want to do better. I mean, how did you feel after the event? I mean, can I just say, you tore the roof off that room. Honestly, it was incredible moment on the stage.
I appreciate it. I tried to manifest a bit of that because I was so nervous about it. But I've learned to understand that, the day itself was incredible. Like absolutely incredible.
Can't explain it, can you?
No, you really can't. And I can't believe I came off stage like, I want to do that again. Yeah. And oh my God, if I did, I'd do it even better because I'd do this and I'd say this and so on and so forth. So it goes to show that all of these things are such a learning experience. And the more you kind of push yourself outside of the comfort zone and hopefully not too close to the terror zone as I absolutely got to, you do feel the magic after. But then there's so much to learn from it as well. And so now I'm already like, what could I have done better?
Yeah,
and
but
so
you
I'm
and
picking it.
You and I had a conversation, do you remember, in the bar after the conference? And you say, what could I do better? How could I have done it differently? But I said to you, the thing that was so special about what you did on that stage is it was absolutely 100% authentically you. So I think, that you can never relive that, can you? And it's all, you absolutely shone through as exactly who you are. And isn't that what we're just trying to shout about?
Absolutely. And I think that's what's really, really important. And keeping on that point specifically now, it's about most people kind of look at it as to what do I need to do? What can I put on? What act? In order to be able to do something like that. But you're safe if you just remain authentic because you can't mess with that. You are who you are.
Can't fall from that.
No, absolutely not. And everyone kept telling me like, no one knows what you're going to talk about, so you can't really get it wrong. So there's things that I know I forgot to say or I could have said better, but nobody else knew that.
No.
And the reaction from the audience, like at the time, and then after, from everyone sort of coming up to you and giving you their feedback and their thoughts and stuff, was incredible. It was the most acceptance and validation I've ever experienced in my life ever. And given my personal story inside of things, like that was even more important and impactful for me. So I am like infinitely grateful for the response, for the opportunity. Like it was really, really special. And I hope a number of other people kind of listen to this and go, maybe I could do it too. Because whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And that's really important, which is why I kept touching on the thoughts become things angle.
Yeah. And we'll come on to talk about that a little bit more later. But so we've talked about the conference, but obviously that's one day in the annual calendar. The Women in Estate Agency movement is about so much more than that, as you know. You know, we are trying to make a huge difference in the industry. You've been in the industry for some time. You've broken that ceiling of, you know, MD of location. There are not many female MDs in the industry. I'm really interested in your view on how far have we come? What's the difference that we're seeing now? But what more is there still to do?
I feel like we've most definitely come a really long way. I'm approaching, well, this is year 19 for me, and there was no representation in the industry for me when I started out, and I found it quite challenging because all of, you know, my previous managers and all of the competitors, seniors, were males, and there was some real kind of negative stuff that went down because they used my sexuality and my age to dismiss me, especially on valuations, which worked in my favour when I then showed up, because obviously that's a really negative reflection of the individual. However, we were dealing with that kind of stuff constantly, and the lack of representation did to a degree make me feel like, oh, maybe I'm kind of going to hit that ceiling and not really
make
have
you
the
question
opportunity.
yourself.
Yeah, like there's no space for me here. And I really like a recent campaign around Take Up Space, where we saw a bunch of women come up into, you know, I'm obsessed with space, right?
It's had really mixed reviews.
It has,
it's had really
and I have
mixed
really
reviews.
mixed feelings towards it, but I do love Take Up Space. And that's specifically, before we sidetrack the conversation, why I bring it up, because I think women need to get more comfortable with taking up space, because we've been conditioned for such a long time not to kind of sit quietly, take orders. And you can see, you know, in specific scenarios, some men, not all, absolutely not, because I'm very lucky to have some incredible men in my life, in the industry and outside of, but it was very much so like, sit down, little girl.
Be a good little girl.
Yeah. And just be quiet, and if you've got something to say, how about don't say it? But I suppose the rebellious side of me wanted to be heard, and in so many instances I wasn't, and so I was like, okay, well, how do I go about making it so that I can take up space and have the confidence to speak up and say, hey, I've got an idea. Because for me, that's where it stemmed from, having ideas and thoughts about how things could be done better, but feeling like I shouldn't open my mouth and put those ideas forward.
How did you overcome that then?
I think for me, it was having something of value to say in the first place. I'm not saying, especially back then, that I actually did, but through my efforts of kind of trying to learn, be inspired by other people, other industries, ideas would come, and all of a sudden I had something of value to say. So I'm not saying, hey, speak up even if you haven't got something of value to say, but you can work on yourself and others around you in order to be inspired and have some value to add, and then have the confidence of speaking up.
And we talked about before, Vicky, we talked about before, you know, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and doing things that bloody terrify you, quite frankly, at times. But that builds over time, doesn't it? The more you push yourself out of your comfort zone, the more you speak up, the more you think, actually, no, I've got something credible and valuable to say. The more you do it, the more you get confident in doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. And it was the reaction. So, for example, if you did have a good idea and you brought it to the table and did the uncomfortable thing of saying, hey, how about this? And then the reaction being quite positive, and you going, oh my God, like actually, you've got some good ideas. You can speak up, and positive things will happen off the back of it. And if they didn't, well, what can I learn from that? But working on yourself in terms of when, like me, lack of confidence and so on and so forth, when you work on those aspects and have tools to help you navigate it, slowly but surely you'll find the progress that makes all the difference. You can learn something tiny in your now that will impact your future self greatly.
Yeah.
And that's what's really important, is these
Yeah.
small marginal learnings.
And I absolutely want to come on to talking about your learning library and how we can make sure, if anyone's been living under a rock, how they get hold of that going forward. But what more do you think we've got to do in the industry to really reach the point where we can go, we don't need women in a state agency anymore?
I hope we always do, because the difference is that support network, the encouragement, the confidence building.
Facebook
that we give
group
each other.
is a wild place, right?
It is. It's wild for sure, but in very good ways.
Yeah.
And you know, long gone are the days where we were raised. You've got this phrase of it takes a village, right? It takes a community. And we kind of lost sense of that, you know, as generations have come through. But now to rebuild that back in the form of which we have inside the industry is really special, because people, especially women, know where they can go in order to get that advice, support, encouragement. And even if it's like, hey, I think I'm doing the right thing, but can I just get a sense check? It's everything.
Yeah.
And some people don't have that in their
safety
day-to-day
net,
life.
right?
Absolutely. And so to learn from each other, to support and encourage each other is absolutely key. Yep, hopefully one day we wouldn't need it. But I think encouraging people to speak up for themselves and ask for help and ask for ideas and ask for support it goes a really long way in making a difference for those individuals. And you guys have created a beautiful kind of safe place where that can happen, and no one feels like an idiot putting a question forward, you know?
But I wanted to delve into how you've done that within location. So, you know, you're one of the highly thought of, regarded, respected agencies within the country. But what absolutely shines through, yes, your results and what you're achieving is phenomenal, but it's led with culture, at the heart of everything that you're doing. And that's not something that happens overnight. So I'm really interested to kind of understand how you've built that, where that's come from, what you've built, and what that looks like within the business.
So you're right, it takes a very long time. So what we're going to do is unpick the best part of 15 years, and we'll focus in on a couple of the aspects that really made the difference. So I mentioned it on stage at the Women in the State Agency conference, that having a set of core values without behaviours that associate and align with them isn't clear enough. So we have clear and specific behaviours that align with our core values that make coaching on the ground a lot easier, because nothing's personal. We're talking about behaviours, not an individual. So when things go wrong, it's easy to kind of tackle it and sit down and discuss with someone, like, based on, you know, the behaviours that we're looking for, how do you feel like that aligned with it?
Bring that to life for me, like, give me an example of when you've seen that within the business.
So there's one that sticks out, there's two that stick out, and if we have time we'll touch on the second one. But one, so in terms of core values, one of them is we have a phenomenally strong team spirit, passionate about growth and development, we care and listen to the needs of the community. But this one focuses in on the team spirit angle and the behaviours within the business. So we had one individual working for us for the best part of 5-6 years. She's absolutely incredible. And she got caught up in a bit of a rut where her results, she wasn't consistent in her behaviours and following processes and so on and so forth. So her results started to really taper off, and she was used to being one of the best agents within the business. And she did something that I'm sure loads of estate agents have experienced within their business, which was a little bit sneaky. And we established that she'd gone in and changed, so when you have an applicant registered, typically it's your buyer. If they buy through you, it's your deal. She changed from another agent into her name, one of our buyers. And at that point, I mean, we're getting gritty, right? And this is really important stuff, because it's easy to focus on the wins, but you very rarely learn anything from your wins. So let's look at our losses and our learnings, right? We established that she'd done it, and I then had a decision to make. How do we handle this? So I took her out for a coffee, and I tried to first understand where she was at. What's going on with Hannah right now? Because I know her, and for her to do something like that,
you know, at the end of the day, the employees are not robots, it's people, right?
They're human beings, and she made a mistake, a massive one, conscious, but a mistake. And then when I was discussing where she's at, what's going on with her and so on and so forth, I could see that she was really stuck in a rut. She was feeling massive shame around the lack of results that she was producing, and that clearly led to what she'd done. I told her that I was aware, and we needed to work out what we were going to do about this and ask for her suggestions. And she leaned straight into one of our go-to within the businesses where we share our mistakes openly, freely, in order to benefit others, right? Because imagine learning from other people's mistakes as well as your own, you're constantly compounding your learnings. So she was obviously massively apologetic, felt real shame about having done that. She took aside the individual that she did it to. He was unaware at the time. She spoke to him, explained what had happened, and obviously apologised, and then called a team meeting. So brought everyone within the business round the desk, which is what we do when we make mistakes and we share them, and explained what she'd done, why she'd done it, apologised to everybody, explained why she found herself in that position and why she did what she did. And it was one of the most, I mean, we've been here for 19 years. That specifically was one of the most beautiful moments we've had as a team.
Yeah.
Everyone around the table, like, well done for sharing, like, and being honest about it. You know, I've been tempted to do that in the past, and I'm learning from that. You know, I'm not ever going to do that, but it was beautiful to be able to share a massive fuck up, you know, which it was. No one got screamed at or told off and so on and so forth. We don't have to, that's not coaching and that's not leadership.
And, you know, we see it all the time in different businesses or friends that we talk to that are terrified of making a mistake, terrified of doing something wrong because their line manager or the business that they work for rules with an iron rod and thinks, you know, making a mistake means I'm going to be out, or I'm going to lose my job, or I'm just going to be thought so much less of. But you're absolutely bang right in terms of how much value is there in going, you know, here's the expectations for sure, but here's a safety net of we'll catch you if you do, if you get this wrong, and it's okay.
Yeah, especially if you handle it in the right way. Had she have sort of got a backup and tried to lie about it and so on and so forth, it wouldn't have panned out the way that it did. But there's so much more to learn from failure. We talk about failing fast, failing often. You have to embrace it, and our association to those challenges and to mistakes and learnings and failures is key.
Yeah.
If you see it as a learning opportunity, if you see it as a way in which to grow, because it's a lesson. Now, if you keep making the same mistake, there's a problem. You're learning from it. However, if you do, you're going to learn so much more than you would.
Yeah.
But this procrastination and fear of making mistakes will often hold us back from embracing something new and doing something differently. And we have to be careful from that, because you won't see growth there either.
So it's a beautiful example of how your values and your culture are absolutely shining through. But how have you got the whole team to that point from the right at the start? You know, we'll talk to people and they'll go, yeah, we've got values, and it's written on a piece of paper in a drawer gathering dust and means nothing. But it's like, how do you bring that to life within the business so that you're seeing the behaviours come from them?
It's training. Train, and coach. So we've actually scheduled it into our week, because we know that what gets scheduled gets done.
Yeah.
So every week there's either a mindset session or a skill set session. Mindset will be focusing on personal growth and development, and skill set is obviously the skill-based learnings to do the job and follow our systems and processes really well. So we're always working on developing our team both personally and professionally, but it's not just the hour session a week that we've been doing for a number of years now. So I love learning on my way into work or getting ready in the morning. I'm always listening to a podcast or watching something that I'm interested in, and I'll always have an aha moment or a small takeaway that then I can walk into a morning meeting and go, right, this is something that I've learned today, and this is something that, and, you know, debate it out with the team, ask them to reflect on what we've learned, whether it's, you know, after a mindset session or after a quick session in the morning meeting. That reflection time is really important. If you just talk at people and don't get them to think about it for themselves, it doesn't stick as it could, and it doesn't inspire and motivate as it could either. Yeah. So having that opportunity and finding the time to make it happen in a morning meeting is really important. We'll play like a 2 to 5 minute video that one of us will choose, a motivational video to play to the team after the morning meeting. And it's all those little different sessions. And it's not just the weekly session. There'll be other times where we've, planned out a new process or worked on something within the business or learnt something ourselves that we want to train and develop. And we'll book in like a 15-minute fire session. Whatever it takes to keep that continuous learning and development, it then, like you say, becomes your culture, and then the team start bringing those ideas to the table. We award based on our core values, not just performance. So our core values all have awards assigned to them. So on a quarterly basis, there's an opportunity to shine a spotlight on someone who's going above and beyond to deliver a world-class service or has a phenomenally strong team spirit, and it shows people that that's where we're placing the importance, so they follow suit with their behaviours and attitude.
And it absolutely shines through, Vicky, that in everything you do, and this is at the top of the agenda for you in terms of running the business, how, with all the pressures, with everything that goes on with running an agency, with everything that we have to deal with both internally and externally, and the numbers that we need to hit, how do you as a leader keep, I guess, people and training and development and culture right at the top of your agenda?
By placing the importance there in the first place. Because it's so important to us, and obviously the core values align with it and so on and so forth, it's always at the forefront. And the minute, like, you can tell if I haven't read anything or haven't been watching anything and inspired by anything, and you have a conversation with me at work, you can almost tell. And I need it to help me, because ultimately we're all in the same boat. There's so many different challenges, so many different pressures, and without that constant reaffirmation of it's meant to be this hard, this is absolutely what you're signing up for, it's not what happens to you, it's how you handle it, there's the importance, thus you follow suit. But if you're not placing any importance on it, you're not scheduling on it, you're not thinking about it, you're not working on it, then it absolutely wouldn't be. And where I've seen the drastic difference it makes to a team, where from recruitment and attraction, I did a training session a while ago for WiEA, and I was looking at the stats and I was like, we haven't actually paid a recruiter for the last 7 recruits that we've had. That saved me tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Incredible.
Just in recruitment fees. Our average time in terms of longevity at the business is about 8 years, which is unheard of in most instances. I'm at 19, our sales director's at 12, Anna's at Peter, our sales progression's at 10. They've grown through the business, and we find that by training even the juniors that are coming in and developing them through the business, it's a far more effective way to maintain that culture, maintain high performance, great results, service. So
I was going to come on to ask you, it's, what does all of this mean to your clients? What does it mean in terms of your results? What does it mean in terms of the service that you're giving? Because, this is not by accident, the results that you're getting. This is absolutely linked back to everything that you're doing, starting within. But how does that kind of play out from a delivery perspective, and how your clients feel about working with you?
So it's the byproduct of it all, and it's the reason behind it all. We want to provide exceptional results. We want to provide exceptional service. The core values reflect that, the behaviours reflect it, so it's a byproduct. And what it means for our clients is, first and foremost, in terms of the service and communication, we've now dubbed it communication in our new
I love that.
Which was an idea that I had speaking to a lettings negotiator and telling me why one of our managed landlords opted to go for another agent instead of us, because they felt like we were too tech heavy in our sales pack. We hadn't outlined what our
storytelling piece,
our internal processes are, in terms of you'll get feedback within 24 hours of that viewing. We do weekly vendor care, you'll get these reports, and so they just assumed that their feedback would be on an app, and it's like, oh, absolutely not. So even just having that conversation, feedback, right, was so helpful to go, sparks the idea, right, this is what we can do in the new Val pack. So it means exceptional, a certainty that you're going to have a much, much better chance of moving, a much better chance of achieving in excess of your marketing price. Just have expert agents guiding you every step of the way that know their stuff, and can support you and provide you with the advice and strategy that's going to mean you can move. So whatever the motivation behind your move is, which was the number one priority, because everyone has various motivations, and that should structure your strategy as well. it means that they just have an exemplary experience. And when you highlight it as an experience, which it absolutely is, and focus on how you can deliver a much better one, then all of a sudden you start thinking about, okay, what would that look like? What it would take? And formulating a plan to make it happen. But the team on the ground that are delivering it are on exactly the same page as you. And that really matters.
What's the risk of businesses that are not doing this, that are not focusing on it? What advice would you give them?
Well, when you look at the average results of how many homes actually end up going through to exchange, you're like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That for me is mental.
Yeah. And then you're not getting paid for 6-9 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just inconsistent results and shark-toothing results at that, because everyone gets complacent when they have one good month.
Yeah.
Look at me now.
Don't need to do any marketing this month because we've had one good month. Yeah, that's going to kick us in the arse.
Exactly. And so you need consistent behaviours and scheduling and a structure within your day and week that reflects what you need to get done. But by not doing that, you risk losing a lot of money, being far less profitable, if actually achieving a profit at all, when you're that inconsistent is doable. But yeah, just being average. And in the future,
nobody wants to be
agency,
average, do they? If they're honest with themselves. But then there's no magic bullet either, is there? We talked right at the start of this around everything that you've built over 19 years, and you've built with a focus on people and service, and that's not going to happen overnight. No. But if you don't want to be average and you want to be out there with the top agents winning the kind of awards that you guys are winning, then it's about, you've got to do more and do it well and do it consistently.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it can make a considerable difference for your day-to-day, fulfillment. Yeah. All we have is right now. Yeah. And I hear so often from so many different people, especially when talking about sort of learning and growth and development, everyone's like, oh my God, that just sounds exhausting. And where do you find the time? I don't have time to do that. And you're like, but that small, tiny amount of, even if it's reading one page or listening to 10 minutes of a podcast and getting that one aha, that's not a waste of time. That's an investment in your future. I am now, our team, our clients, our business, me enjoying a life based on the efforts of past Vicky.
They say, I love the saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Right now.
Right?
Yeah.
Talk to me about your learning library.
My learning library. So that stemmed from, the girl that I mentioned that made the mistake and then shared it with the team. I then created off the back of that the how to 10x your life, right? So it was the first draft, let's say, of the learning library, and it was just a list of books and podcasts and so on and so forth that people could listen to progress personally, professionally, and so on and so forth. She attacked that list like no one else I've ever seen before after that experience.
Really?
So we talk about it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. She reacted so well. And within 12 months, she doubled her earnings.
Wow.
And I was like...
What a turnaround.
Yeah. And that was her. That wasn't the how to 10x your life or the content
any
list.
other business could have gone, gross misconduct, you're out.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, had she have not been the type of individual that she was, she would have absolutely got a warning at the very least, a written one at that. But again, she showed up. And she stepped up. Yeah. And I rate that. I love that. I don't care about the mistake that you made. Genuinely, I'm glad you made it, because look at what's happened off the back of it. Hence, learning from our mistakes and our failures. And how she reacted to it was incredible. And the journey she went on thereafter was amazing. And so I was like, just making it easy for people could be so important. Because another thing I always get, apart from I don't have the time, is I don't know where to start. So I was like, well, there's loads that I've watched and read and listened, and I'd often get some popcorn and treats in, turn the lights off and play one of the podcasts or whatever to the team during a session, That
is bougie. That is bougie podcast watching. Let's get all the women in estate agency gang on there.
Pod Club. I'm here for it. Let's do it. And so I was like, well, let's just make it really, really easy. And even if it had to be on our time, I was okay with that, if you're taking half an hour out to make that happen. Because I knew that the benefits would be huge. So then the list came, and then I was constantly developing it. Anything that I was reading or watching or listening to, I was tracking it onto the list. And then when you awesome women asked me to be on stage, I'm all about how can I add as much value as possible. I was like, well, how do I add value? What tangible takeaway can I give based on what I'm talking about and what I've learned in the past and the excuses that I've been given as well? And I was like, right, I'm going to take the 10X, formulate it into a learning library, LL. I had to.
Of course.
And then I kind of
job in a
pulled
marketing
that
agency,
together.
Vic.
Listen, I'm always here to help. I love collaboration, so we can call that collaboration.
Yeah.
We'll have our little thing going. But yeah, then the list came together, and it took a lot of time to pull it together and hyperlink it all up.
You actually put the graft in for that presentation, Vic.
It's really important to me. But initially I did it with the wrong links. I jumped on Google Chrome and didn't realise I was on a US-based Amazon account. And then every time I clicked on one to double check that I'd linked it properly, it was in US dollars. And I was like, oh my God, you've got to start again. But I did.
But it's there. You've built it. It's the most incredible resource learning library. I will link it in this blog, in this podcast update, so everyone can access it. We've got it on the Women in a State Agency website already as well. So we close all of our podcasts with asking a couple of little questions. I feel like we could have talked for another hour, but trying to be sticking to the 30 minutes here. The first question that we ask all of our guests is around and I think we've touched on some of this earlier, but why is the Women in a State Agency movement so important to this industry?
I think you're breaking barriers. I think you've smashed a glass ceiling that was certainly there for a long time and just waiting for a group of epic women to come along and smash it. And I think it's giving so many people from, juniors and new starters within the industry all the way through to people that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years, a huge amount of confidence, support, collaboration in a way that's never existed before. And I think it's a very special movement. I think you guys should be so proud of what you've done so far and the impact that you've had. And that impact goes further. So those that are being positively impacted, making changes, breaking barriers, are doing the same for others. They're inspiring other people that might not even be in the group have ever heard about it.
Why it's a movement, right?
Exactly.
We need more people.
So the impact's just further and wider and wider. And so that's the same thing when it comes to training your team and yourself, and the best way to learn is to teach. So by learning and then training others, your impact widens further and further. And so the impact that Women in a State Agency has had has already been insane, but I think will compound and ripple out in ways that right now we can't imagine.
Yeah, here's hoping, hey? So last question for you. Who would you like to see on the pod in the coming weeks to come and share their story?
I would love to hear from, she was one of your first guests on the first conference, and that's Joanna Knight, OBE now. She's got a totally different name to what she did at the time. So now we have Joanna Knight, OBE, and I've learnt so much from her and been inspired by her so much over the years. And I would love to hear more from her. So please get her on.
Hot off the press, she has already said yes. We're
Okay.
just trying to secure a date. So
Brilliant.
Joe, we need to speak, get the date sorted. Vicky, thank you so much, darling, for coming on the pod and talking to us today. And we will see you at the next conference, no doubt. But we'll be talking all the way throughout the year, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Vic.